Hi everyone, it's Maya. This video is going to be about doll collecting tips/hacks/ideas. I made a video with a similar premise a few years ago, but the tips in this video are all new, not recycled, although I do totally recommend that you check out that first video before or after watching this one if you're interested. So let's just get started. So I did make a doll curling tutorial at one point for how I maintain the hair of my dolls with curly/wavy hair, but my technique has changed quite a bit over the years, so I decided to include it here. I used to watch a lot of curling tutorials on YouTube when I was younger, but it still took me a lot of trial and error to come up with a curling method that I really like and is easy to do. A lot of the tutorials I used to watch would show you how to do these big, thick curls. For instance, one doll would just have 7 giant curls. There's nothing wrong with this method, but it doesn't really look very natural to me, because real people with curly hair don't have giant curls like that. So my method is to do big, thick curls, just like in those tutorials, but when I'm done, I carefully separate the curls into smaller pieces. Sometimes you will have to retwist the hair slightly when doing this to make the smaller curls come out neatly. This tip might sound very simple, but like I said, it wasn't something that I thought of for a really long time, so I thought it might be useful to other people. Personally, I love the way these smaller, more natural curls look, but since I start with the bigger curls and then separate them, I think this method is a lot faster than if I were to try to recurl each individual small curl. Another little tip I have is instead of separating the hair sideways, splitting it in half sideways from a big curl, do it in terms of layer of hair, split it vertically and horizontally. I find that this looks more natural, and then you kind of have multiple layers of curls, which will make your doll's hair look a lot thicker and more beautiful, in my opinion. So the technique that I was just describing above is for dolls, like Rebecca or Lainey or Sage or Sonali, but I also thought it would be worth including my technique for dolls with much curlier hair like Gabriella. So it does take a lot of work to keep her curls looking like this. So just a disclaimer, this technique still does take a lot of work. But yeah, I've noticed a lot of other people who style doll wigs of this type tend to do bigger/thicker curls. They end up very dense with no gaps. So it's just kind of like a tube, if that makes sense. Again, there's nothing wrong with this style, but I prefer to keep my Gabby's hair looking like how it did when I got her, which is smaller, more individual curls. So to do this, I use a thin, smooth pen, but you could also use a chopstick or a straw even. So first, I carefully run each individual curl through my fingers to try to capture all the flyaway hairs. Taming the flyaways is honestly the hardest part of maintaining Gabby's hair. Next, I carefully wrap the hair around the pen, trying to smooth it out as I go. After that, I hold the curl in place for a moment and then carefully slide the pen out. This is why it's really important that you try to use something smooth like a plastic pen. So yeah, this technique is still very tedious because obviously Gabby has so many curls on her hair. It will take a long time to go through and do them all. I like to do it if I'm watching TV or something like that, but personally, I really like the results. And once you kind of get going, it's not that hard. So this next tip is a little unconventional, I think. It might weird some people out, but if you make stop motions, live action videos, or even just take photos, I think it could come in handy. And that's a pun. You will get it in a moment. So basically, when I filmed my YouTube series Unmagical, I wanted the camera to represent the main character's point of view, like you were actually seeing through her eyes. I planned to convey this by having the main character's arms visible on the sides of the frame, but I couldn't really figure out how to do that. What I ended up coming up with is buying a pair of loose doll arms on eBay that I could hold myself on the sides of the camera. It's definitely a little weird to have a pair of loose doll arms sitting around, but trust me, this is so much easier. Back when I would make more skits/stop motion, sometimes I wanted to show a doll wiping away her tears or adjusting her glasses, and it was always super awkward to have to hold another doll underneath her but make sure it wasn't visible to use that other doll's hand. So this technique with the loose arms was honestly kind of a game changer because suddenly it became so easy, and I think now the angle looks so much more natural when I do this kind of thing. So this fourth tip is ReBodying. I don't know if other people have noticed this, but I've noticed that some older dolls have very different looking bodies. So like for example, if you look at pictures of Elizabeth or Nellie dolls, you'll notice that the shape of their chest and the angle of their heads are really different than like dolls that are made now. So these dolls, they tend to look taller, I find, and their gaze is angled like more upward. It's basically straight ahead as opposed to newer dolls which tend to look down a little bit. So basically at some point, AG changed how they construct the torsos. They made them more downward angled and changed how they sew the neckline. So this might not sound like it would make a big difference, but trust me, it really does. I've rebodied 3 of my dolls, my Ivy, my Jess, and my Marisol. So for my Ivy and Jess, I actually had a lot of trouble bonding with them when they had their old bodies. It was just a very different look, and I felt like it made it hard to photograph them. They didn't look as good in certain styles of shirts, stuff like that. And now that they have the newer style bodies, they're honestly 2 of my favorite dolls. So when I got my Marisol doll, I planned to rebody her right away and already had a new body like waiting when I got her. So it's still really hard for me to articulate why this makes such a big difference, but if you have an older doll who you've had trouble connecting with, I highly recommend that you look into rebodying. And you can just resell the old body, so it shouldn't be too expensive either. And trust me, it basically feels like you have a brand new doll, so it's totally worth it in my eyes. So tip number 5 is altering jeans. So obviously, styles for jeans have changed a lot. Like when I was a kid, I don't think I remember people ever wearing skinny jeans because people would wear like more bootcut styles or even ones that had like a bit of a flare at the bottom. But those aren't really fashionable anymore. But I still have older doll clothes from back then. So over the years, I've modified quite a few pairs of my doll pants to have more of a straight or skinny jean cut. It's really easy, and while it's much faster to use a sewing machine, you can also do this by hand pretty quickly. The only thing is it's not going to work well if the pants are made out of a thick fabric, but I find that doll pants are generally made out of pretty thin material anyway. So this method is also totally reversible if you change your mind, because basically all you do is sew a little line on the inner pant leg seam. But if you want to make it permanent, you can totally do this. You can just sew the line, trim the excess fabric, and then finish the cut edge with a zigzag stitch or some other type of locking stitch. So this is a great way to update your doll's wardrobe and start using old clothes that you had kind of neglected without actually having to spend money to go buy new stuff. I've done it with several pairs of pants that aren't American Girl and also a pair of the American Girl Place exclusive jeans, and it really makes a world of difference. So this last tip is about doll clothing storage. I think I kind of showed this setup a few years ago when I made a video of that was like a tour of my doll setup in my closet, but I think that this is such a fantastic tip that I really wanted to share it again here. So as you can see, the rod in my closet is really thick, way too thick to hang doll clothes. But even if it was thinner, the doll clothes would take up a lot of room. So what I do is I hang the doll hangers on a human-sized hanger, which you can then just hang normally and kind of push it off to the side so it's tucked away. So you do have to be careful that you don't completely overstuff the hanger or put too much really heavy clothing on, because as you might be able to notice, my hanger is sagging a little bit. But as long as you're not using a cheap plastic hanger, I don't think you'd actually have to worry about it breaking. So I find that this tip saves me so much space. I only need one hanger for all my doll dresses, but you could see that I could clearly fit another couple completely full hangers and still feel like I have a ton of room in my closet. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that my, pieces of doll collecting tips and wisdom over the years have helped you, because that's really what this video is all about, trying to share what I've learned over the years so that other people don't have to struggle figuring things out. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!